let's continue on with the X series with Megaman X3. And as the title suggests, we'll also be looking at the modded version of Megaman X3 called Megaman X3 Zero Project. Now the reason why is because although X3 has some new features that are integrated into the game, the way they are programmed is not exactly what fans envisioned. You could say they would come off as shortcomings, but thankfully the modded version will help resolve that. We'll be looking at the game again via the Mega Man X collection. However, it's not the SNES version, but rather the PC version, which is based off of the SNES version with some new features integrated into it. Now granted, I used to have the PlayStation 1 Japan-only version of X3, but unfortunately it is scratched up so hard to the point that it's no longer working. Also, I think you may have noticed that I've been wearing this shirt throughout this marathon, but that's only because I really love this shirt. It's called Reploids Against Mavericks, and it makes sense with the marathon. You can actually find this shirt at www.sharkrobot.com. Those guys have really cool merchandises that are worth checking out. Anyway, let's continue on with the marathon with Mega Man X3. So what makes the PC version much different from the SNES release? Well, right after the SNES release of the game, it was also ported to the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn with CD quality audio, new sound effects, and anime cutscenes during some events, and for introducing a boss, which for its time are actually nice. However, the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn versions would actually have absolutely miserable loading times that, well, I can't really keep count on the top of my head on how long did I have to wait. Probably about a good minute or so, or at least between 30 seconds and a minute. But when the PC version came out, it was based on the CD console ports with all the aforementioned additions, only the load times are that of the SNES, which is a real plus. Which is why it's the PC version that is used in this collection and not the SNES version.
My history of the game is just as similar as its predecessor, only I've mentioned that I've enjoyed a good hour of it each time I visited stores or gaming cafes to try it out. So what new features await us in Mega Man X3? Well, let's look at the plot. The Maverick threat that started in the first two games has been subdued, thanks to the efforts of a Reploid scientist named Dr. Doppler. Using his invention, the neurocomputer, he has been able to suppress any abnormal behavior in the Reploids and prevent them from going berserk. Many of the most advanced Reploids have gathered near their new mentor and founded Doppeltown, a perfect utopian community for Reploids. Under Doppler's guidance, it looked like the world is walking the straight and narrow path. Or so it seemed. Months have passed, and the Mavericks who were supposed to have been neutralized by the neurocomputer suddenly appeared and began to riot. At the Maverick Hunter headquarters, Dr. Doppler was named the mastermind behind the invasion, and it's up to X and Zero to destroy the invading Mavericks and bring Dr. Doppler to justice. However, hours later, the Hunter base was attacked, forcing our heroes to make an immediate U-turn and drive the invaders away. As in the past, you have an intro stage helping you learn the ropes and advance the plot. Eventually, X will come across a hunter named Mac, who turned out missing prior to the game, who captures X and tells that he defected to Doppler's army. And then for the first time, Zero can be controlled. but his usage in the game is very limited at best, which we'll get into in this review. Zero is somehow tied to control, even more so than X. However, he can charge himself up to 3 levels, and by doing so can unleash 2 charge shots and a z-saber slash, which, while slow, it does massive damage. Zero enters a duel with Mech, easily defeats him, and rescues X from his bonds. Zero proceeds to check out the rest of the area for any survivors, leaving X to deal with one of Doppler's mechanoids, which takes a few charge shots to the head. Afterwards, it's on to choose which one of Doppler's Mavericks you want to take down first. I usually would take on either Blizzard Buffalo or Tunnel Rhino first. Here's some of the differences between versions. In the SNES version, the Maverick is first introduced on a black screen with Doppler's insignia. Very basic intro. While in the CD and PC ports, an anime cutscene plays with the chosen Maverick doing whatever, followed by their names, which looks cool for the time. But then the game starts. In past X games, many attacks from lesser enemies shouldn't deal that much damage to the player, but in X3, even before taking on the main Mavericks or sub-bosses, the lesser enemies not only can endure your attacks even more, but can shave off your HP in minutes. And should you be desperate for any recovery items, you'll be sadly informed that 80% of the enemies have lesser chances of dropping any items to save yourself or fill up your E-tanks. The best place for me to grind for HP pickups will be the rock droppers at the start of Tunnel Rhino's stage. Many consider X3 to be difficult in terms of damage output done to you by enemies, and it's even worse against bosses where, aside from huge HP loss by touch damage, many of their attacks can also deal so much damage, and they have attack patterns that even if you see them coming, they'll recover from their own attacks so fast you'll miss your mark. Like the past games, the stages are fun to travel around, and there are secrets aplenty to grab for your gaming pleasure. And the music is well composed, both on cartridge and CD, especially Zero's theme and Kane's theme. Some secrets like E-tanks, heart tanks, and capsules can only be found if you have a specific weapon to use on some obstacles, such as destroying crates with Tunnel Rhino's weapon, using a ride armor to destroy a wall, or using a charged weapon attack or the weight of a ride armor to destroy a structure beneath you. Speaking of ride armors, you don't find one in any stage out in the open like past games until you find one hidden in one of the hangars at Blast Hornet's stage, where you'll find your first ride armor, the Chimera, which upon riding it, you'll automatically get your first module cartridge, which you can use to summon a ride armor at any time at these teleportation devices. There are 4 types of ride armors that you can find and ride, and you have to find those modules in different stages after obtaining the Chimera. The Chimera is your standard punching armor, functioning the same way as an X1. The second is the Frog, designed for underwater combat, which fires homing missiles only when you're in water, and is the only ride armor that can withstand water, as any other ride armor that is submerged will gradually lose its HP in seconds. Third is the Hawk, which has the ability to hover for a short time and fires really fast missiles. And the fourth is the Kangaroo, which is a much stronger Chimera with a retractable fist as a charged attack. The X3 armor is slightly improved from X2, and somewhat nerfed at the same time. And what I mean by that is that it lacks a Giga attack. Some of the new features would include an item radar for the head armor, which whenever you start a stage, shows you a map and every potential areas where secrets can be found. And fort parts, which not only make you dash forward and mid-air, but you can also perform an upward air dash. There are also 4 Dr. Light capsules that are magenta that you can find, each that enhances a specific armor piece, such as letting X dash in mid-air or upwards twice, or an ability called Hypercharge, which lets X shoot nothing but charge shots as long as there's weapon energy to spare, which can only be filled up by hurting yourself, just like X2's Giga Crush before that. You can enter them if you want to, but as demonstrated here, it's better if you just ignore them for now, as there's a secret capsule in the game that's worth getting than any of the 4 magenta ones individually, which I'll get into and actually tell you how to get it. After defeating your first 2 Mavericks, Doppler sends out his allies, the Nightmare Police, which is a duo consisting of Bit and Bite, and a shadowy Maverick with a shoulder cannon and a familiar helmet. Spoiler, it's the returning Vile, now called Vile Mark II. We've already seen how Zero performs in this game, and while he is powerful in hindsight, unfortunately his playability is at best limited. In any stage, he can only be summoned once, and unlike X, he can't air dash, does not have any special weapons, he can't use any right armors, he can't pick up hard tanks or E-tanks, and he can't participate in boss battles, as evidence that once he reaches a boss or sub-boss door, you immediately switch back to X against your will, and you can't summon Zero again until after you complete the stage or escape the stage. However, there is one sub-boss match that Zero can participate on, which leads me to the other things about X3. The endings, and a very hidden secret in the game, depends on whether or not you have Zero alive. You see, Zero only has one life, and there are two ways that you can lose Zero. The first way is that if Zero dies in any possible way, a cutscene will play out, telling X to continue the mission without him, forcing Zero to remain in HQ. The second way is when you're going for X's ability to use z-saber, which is done by finding a hidden capsule which can be found at the stage of Vault Catfish, and during your match with Vile, you need to kill him with any of his two weaknesses, the Spinning Blade or Ray Splasher, and escape the room before it blows up. And continue going through the game normally until you reach that one specific door in Doppler Stage 2, which you must switch to Zero before entering, and fight a sub-boss named Mosquitus, who, after defeated, will do a scripted kamikaze attack on Zero, forcing Zero to withdraw back to HQ, but not before lending X his Z-saber. The Z-saber is very powerful, that taking down bosses will only take about 2 hits, if you know where and when to time your attack. To get the true ending, however, you must ensure that Zero lives throughout the whole adventure no matter what. In short, don't use Zero at all, and it doesn't matter how many lives you lose as X, as long as you don't play as Zero at all, then you're guaranteed the good ending regardless.
Honestly, that's a stupid stipulation and a really bad design choice, because when news broke out of Zero being playable for X3, it got fans like myself really excited. But the way he is integrated into the game really comes off as a turnoff for so many, including myself. I was actually excited for the Class S Hunter himself to be finally playable. But giving him limitations like that, it just spells disaster for me. It doesn't help either that he can't participate on boss fights, he can't have any conversations with any other boss. In fact, in this game he just comes off as a side note.
Another feature this game has is that depending on how you defeat bosses, you can change different boss fights in later stages. Your first fight with Bit happens upon pursuing your 3rd Maverick. You fight against Bite upon chasing your 7th Maverick, and as already shown, in the special capsule in the stage of Vault Catfish, you fight Vile. The bosses in the Doppler stages depend on whether or not you kill Doppler's lieutenants with their weaknesses. In this case, if you killed both the Nightmare Police with their weaknesses, Doppler Stage 1 will have this mechanoid called the Press Disposer to take their place. But if both were defeated without using their weaknesses, they'll appear in Doppler Stage 1 in a fused form as the Karma Machine. Yeah, it actually has a long name, but I'll just shorten it to Karma Machine to make it easier. It's worth noting that if one of them dies while the other lives, you'll still fight the Karma Machine in Doppler Stage 1 anyway. What I didn't show is that if you kill Vile with his weakness prior to Doppler's Fortress, a mechanoid known as the Vault Kuragale will take his place in Doppler Stage 2. But I decided to let him live anyway to make the encounter more epic. I've mentioned that it's better to ignore the 4 Dr. Light Magenta capsules, and that's because there's a special Magenta capsule inside Doppler Stage 1. To access the capsule, you need all 8 hard tanks, all 4 ride armor modules, and a completed X armor, all while ignoring the 4 Magenta capsules. Also a recommendation, unless you're really skilled, fill at least 1 E-tank, because near the end of Doppler Stage 1, you should see a bunch of spiked balls falling into a pit. Make sure your HP bar is full before attempting, but if it's not, use your E-tank and then jump and cling onto the left side of the pit, and you should slide into a secret room, which contains the upgrade capsule for the golden chip. This chip gives you all the benefits from all the other chips, and turns Megaman's suit of armor to gold. This armor causes X's HP to regenerate more quickly, which is useful before a boss fight, and the hypercharge uses less energy, so you can go to town with charge shots during that duration. Keep in mind that the gold armor is not saved in normal passwords that you get from either getting a game over or completing or escaping a stage, so it must be re-obtained whenever the console is turned off. Or just find a good password from GameFAQs just to save yourself the trouble. After taking down the 8 revived Mavericks, it's time to face Dr. Doppler himself. He has a good damage output, but his moves are very easy to dodge. Although as you can tell from my performance, I'm quite rusty at this game. After the match, Doppler came to his senses that he was possessed by Sigma's improved viral form, and forced Doppler to create a new body for him. The hunters proceeded to go after Sigma, but not before Doppler tells them that also underground, he developed an antivirus program that can stop Sigma should he attempt to possess another Reploid. So in an underground lab, Zero proceeds to find the antivirus program, while X goes on to fight Sigma. In his first form, his shield throw has a predictable pattern until his HP is low, and his fireballs are easy to predict and dodge. Although as you see here, I let my recklessness get the better of me. Kaiser Sigma, by contrast, can be irritating as he fires drones and missiles at your face, and just like his final form in the first game, you can only damage the head. Only charge shots or the Z-saber, if you have it at all, can only hurt him. After the Kaiser body is destroyed, Sigma goes into viral form, only this time, invincible against any of X's shots, and tries to boil X alive by raising acid. The acid itself is not instant kill, it's only when you drop down to it while having after-hit invincibility will it be lethal. Desperate for an escape, X finds himself in a dead end, and Sigma aims for his next possession, when at the last minute, Zero shows up and kills Sigma with the antivirus program installed in the Z-saber. X and Zero escape the base as it self-destructs and return back to HQ, ending Megaman X3. But what of Dr. Doppler? In the bad ending, Doppler appears and sacrifices himself to Sigma with the antivirus built onto him, allowing X to escape. Though in the true ending, it can be implied that he decided to let the self-destruction of the Maverick base consume him, so that similar incidents like this would never happen again.
In the end, X3 tried to expand upon what X2 offered previously. However, with these limitations, especially with the limited use of Zero, it doesn't feel too rewarding for me to play it again and again. But thankfully, the modded version of it, Megaman X3 Zero Project, fixed that, making Zero more involved than how he was programmed initially. Well, first off, I gotta give 2 shoutouts. First off, I'm gonna give a shout out to YouTube user Justin3009 for actually making the mod and making it very fun. He did everything in his power to make Zero more involved and give him more meat into the overall plot of the game. So yeah, Justin3009, shout out to you, man. And my second shout out goes to my friends at Retro Circuits for actually making this cartridge. And I gotta say, the cartridge works so perfectly. Heck, it's even based on the latest build that Justin3009 made. So yeah, shout out to you guys, thank you for this cartridge, and I hope to see you all at a future convention soon. So what did the modded version of X3 have that the original didn't?
For starters, X and Zero can be summoned at any time, except inside boss doors. The controls on both hunters are smoother now, especially that Zero can fire charge shots and slash faster than before. Zero benefit not only on E-tanks but also on hard tanks. And what's cool is that no matter who picks up a hard or E-tank, both characters will be affected. Also, it doesn't matter how many times you get killed, Zero remains active no matter what, and he can finally participate in boss battles, which in the original, he only has one boss battle, and that's when I did an experiment as to why he's not allowed in boss battles. Let's do a comparison. Here's the original X3 with Game Genie or Action Replay codes activated to let Zero be active at all times. We already know that Zero automatically gets kicked out whenever you're about to enter a boss door, but just for an experiment, here's what happens when Zero fights a boss. His charge shots are just about the same level as X, but his saber swing is downright powerful as it shaved a good chunk of HP out of Tunnel Rhino. Now here's Zero in the Zero Project mod. Nothing's changed from the damage output of his buster shots, but the attack strength of his Z-saber is nerfed to where it can still destroy lesser enemies, but its damage output against bosses may vary depending on the boss itself, though its power can increase by collecting power-ups. In the stage select screen, you can press the Accept button on the X panel to change the letter between X and Z, giving you the option of which character you want to start the stage with. Zero can also engage in conversations with the bosses or Dr. Light, and yes, he can also benefit from Dr. Light's capsules, giving him new abilities like a double jump and mid-air dash. He can also make use of X's special weapons from defeated Mavericks and is given animations for each of them. And he can also summon ride armors anytime for use in the mod. Like X, you can also fulfill the same conditions to get the gold armor upgrade in Doppler Stage 1, and if you enter the capsule as Zero, not only will you also benefit from the enhancements of the 4 magenta capsules, but Zero also gains the Black Zero armor, and man, he looks awesome. And once again, no matter who enters the special light capsule, both characters will be affected regardless and get their respective armors. There are 3 endings to this mod, and because Zero can die normally now like X, the only way to get the bad ending is when you fulfill the requirements to have X use the Z-saber. The other 2 endings, if you decide not to sacrifice Zero, depends on who you choose to fight Sigma with for the final match.
It's basically Megaman X3, only way more enhanced than the original. With Zero fully playable, giving Zero a chance to shine the spotlight with X, better controls, better replay value, basically everything that the original could have been. Now, instead of giving both of them a score together, I'm going to give each of them a separate score. So for the original, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, while the modded version, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now, very likely in the comment section, I'll probably get some comments as to why I'm rating the modded version higher than the original, or why am I reviewing the modded version at all. Which, I know it's kind of a gray area, but let's be realistic here. The original X3 is a fun game, but with these limitations that come off as shortcomings, it definitely detracted me from replaying the game again. But this mod definitely fixed all the problems and more, giving it better replay value. You see, my gaming philosophy is that playing the game as is cool and all, but having a complete package means better gaming experience. Nowadays, the roads to achieving greater gaming experience solely depend on making transactions on DLCs, which I have no problem on genres like RPGs, but any other genre, it's clearly hit or miss. Such example is that I haven't played Street Fighter V in so long, and the DLCs are mostly miss. And the same can be said for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I know it may sound harsh, but that is just my opinion of it. Maybe I might rent Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite out of Redbox real soon, just to make a review of it, if I get a chance at it. And as for me reviewing the modded version in general, well, channels like Forgotten Games or even GameSack did some reviews of mods or anything in this kind of topic that I decided to do my own take on it. But still in all, play at your own risk. I would like to give out a shout out once again to Justin3009 for the creation of the mod. And I gotta say, Justin, this mod is so much fun. Like I said, it's something that the original could have been, and hey, props to you, man, for working so hard to make this mod happen. And I would like to give a shout out once again to Retro Circuits for making the cartridge. Like I said, it works so nicely that, yeah, it's a definite keeper. Now before we end the X3 video, we're going to look at another Megaman X3 video, only it's not licensed at all and is actually in the most unlikely of consoles, which is the Sega Genesis, and well, let's take a look. Oh goodness, the twang sound of the Genesis console.
Yep, an unlicensed Genesis version of Megaman X3, or Rockman as he's always known for in Japan. Oh man, the sound effects are horrible. 2 Mavericks are missing from the stage select screen, you can't play as Zero, you don't have access to any special weapons or ride armors, they use the X1 armor sprite for X, and the Mavericks are so weak they can be killed in seconds, it's unbelievable. Oh, and the controls suck too. Yeah, licensed or not, this game sucks so hard it's not worth even giving a score.
Megaman X3, the modded version anyway, is my number 4 Megaman X game. So up next in the marathon, we're going to be looking at my number 1 Megaman X game, Megaman X4. And we're going to go even more old school by looking at the PlayStation 1 version and not the collection. So yeah, stay tuned for that folks, as I have so many good things to say about it. Anyway, I hope you liked this review. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification button for any more content that I may upload. And don't forget to check out my Facebook page and like it as well, www.facebook.com/MusashiXReviews. Until then, this has been Musashi X. I bid you all farewell, take care, and stay tuned!